lot of stress can be boiled down to one core sentiment. I'm not meeting expectations. If you're anything like me, you get a lot of joy and satisfaction out of meeting or exceeding expectations, whether they're your own or someone else's. But the flip side of that coin is that you get pretty stressed out when you feel like you're not meeting expectations, whether they're your own or someone else's. And if you have this joy/stress relationship with expectations and you hold a high bar for everything you do, and you have a busy life with a lot of stuff going on, you can find yourself with brain chatter in the back of your head saying, you're behind, you're doing a bad job, you need to get your shit together. And that stressed out brain chatter can start to feel like the soundtrack to your entire life. Now, if you have the soundtrack in your head, the first thing I want to tell you is you are not crazy. You don't have an anxiety problem. You don't have a self-esteem problem. You don't hate yourself, and your brain isn't broken. You just have a metrics problem. And here is how you're going to solve it. You are going to set 4D expectations. This is expectations that are deliberate, defined, doable, and deconflicted. Let's break these down one by one. The first D is deliberate, which just means you set the expectation consciously for this specific situation. Now, your brain will probably have an automatic expectation, regardless of whether or not you deliberately set one. But those automatic expectations are often not that great. For example, when I left consulting to become a chief of staff to an executive, I unconsciously brought a lot of consulting expectations with me. One of them was, if someone asks you to do something, it needs to be done by the end of the day, ideally, or by the end of the week if you're really stretched thin. And I didn't even realize I had this expectation in my head. It was so unconscious and ingrained in me that I didn't even notice it. Until one day, my boss sat me down, probably noticing that I seemed more and more stressed as time went on, and she told me, hey, that thing I sent you yesterday, I'm expecting that to be done 5 weeks from now. And that other thing I sent you, that doesn't need to get done until next quarter. And that's when I realized I had never sat down and deliberately defined the timeline expectations for anything I was doing. I'd never asked my boss, but more importantly, I'd never asked myself. I never said to myself, hey, when do I think this needs to be done by in the context of everything else I'm doing? Instead, I was just running with my automatic expectations without even questioning them. And there are probably a bunch of areas in your life where you're doing this too. So take the time to sit down and deliberately create your own expectations for this specific situation. The second D in 4D expectations is defined, which means it's clear where you stand either way. Now, I often shy away from defining clear expectations if I'm not sure that I'll be able to achieve them. But having unclear expectations is actually pretty stressful too. It can create this constant overhanging sense of, I need to be working on this without any way of actually checking the thing off your list. For example, I have a massive list of things that I have to get done in order to launch my course and coaching program. And each item on the list is pretty well defined, but for a long time, I didn't define how many of the items I wanted to get done every day. Instead, I just tell myself, just work down the list and do as much as you can. And I really didn't want to commit to a certain number of things every day because I knew I'd be really disappointed in myself if I didn't get it all done. But telling myself, just do as much as you can, actually wasn't that relaxing either. Instead, it just made me feel like I was constantly behind and needed to spend every waking moment working down the list. And at the end of the day, I just felt uneasy. I felt like, had I done as much as I could? I don't know. I mean, I took time off to eat meals. I spent an hour booking summer travel. I spent an hour responding to emails. Was that all time I should have spent working on my course launch to-do list? Had I done a good job? Had I done a bad job? I could never tell. And I'm not saying that you have to define a precise numerical goal for every single thing in your life. There's plenty of places in my life where I have relatively undefined expectations. And it doesn't stress me out because I know whether or not I'm on track just by feel. In other words, I know where I stand, even if I don't have precise numbers backing me up. But if you are feeling uneasy or having stressed out brain chatter, it's worth checking whether it's caused by an undefined expectation and your brain therefore feeling uncertain about where you stand. The third D in 4D expectations is doable, which means that the expectation is realistic and achievable with the time and the bandwidth that you have. This is the hardest one for me. My eyes are bigger than my calendar. Everything takes 2 to 3 times longer than I think it should. And I'm very prone to doing something like having a free Saturday or Sunday and thinking, you know what I'll do today? I'll set up a personal financial management system. I'll hire a contractor for all those odd jobs around the house. I'll renew my global entry. I'll make all my social plans for the next month. I'll make all my travel plans for the entire summer. And then I'll go out to dinner at 8. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not that much. And then I go all surprised Pikachu face when I only get one half of one of those things done. Realistic planning takes real concerted effort. Chances are the plans, standards, and expectations that your brain spins up automatically are not realistic. My brain's plans certainly are not. So slow down, do the time math, cross-check your list against the number of hours in a day and the amount of mental, physical, and emotional gas in your tank, and set a doable expectation. And the last D in 4D expectations is deconflicted, which means it doesn't conflict with any of your other expectations. When two of your expectations conflict with each other, it's like trying to drive forward while one wheel of your car is turning backwards. You're working against yourself, it is frustrating as hell, and you don't even get very far. It was a conflicted expectation that ultimately led me to leave my corporate job and become a coach. Because as much as I wanted to do an amazing job and impress my boss and get promoted as fast as I could, that's 3 wheels turning forward, I also had a voice in the back of my head whispering, wait, this isn't the career path you want to be on. I don't know if you really want to do this. And that was one wheel of my car turning backward. And I couldn't meet either expectation until I resolved the conflict. I couldn't crush it at my job because that voice in the back of my head kept holding me back. And I also couldn't figure out what else I wanted to do because I wanted to crush it at my job, which meant that I was always feeling a little bit uneasy until I resolved the conflict. And if you're juggling multiple things in your life, whether it's multiple projects at work, your work life versus your home life, your hobbies versus your career, or even being healthy and working out versus staying out late and being social, it's inevitable that you will run into conflicting expectations. And when you find them, all you have to do is talk them out with yourself or with someone else and figure out how to resolve the conflict. And if you're not sure how to do that, no worries. That is a big thing I work on with my one-on-one coaching clients. Now, here's the amazing thing about you. When you set 4D expectations, expectations that are deliberate, defined, doable, and deconflicted, you lock in, get in the zone, and get shit done. That is the joy side of your relationship with expectations. You love checking the box, meeting the bar, and knocking it out of the park. You can trust yourself 100% to do that every single time. And if you ever notice that you're not doing that, or that doing that has suddenly become more stressful for you, all that means is that you've given yourself a non-4D expectation, an expectation that's not deliberate, not defined, not doable, or conflicted. And when that stress chatter goes off in your brain, you're not actually off track. The chatter isn't true. And you're not a crazy person with a broken brain. There's nothing wrong with you for having stressed out brain chatter. All that's happened is that you have a non-4D expectation somewhere in your life. And all you have to do is find it and fix it, and you will be back in flow in no time. Now, if you can't tell from the 300 plus articles and videos that I've made on this topic, I am passionate about helping my clients create less stress and more flow in their lives. It is pretty much my singular full-time obsession. And if you found my articles and videos helpful, just think how much more helpful it'll be to come talk to me live and get my custom perspective on your situation. There's 2 ways we can work together. You can be one of my private one-on-one coaching clients. You can book a free coaching consult at the link above, and we can talk about how we can work together. Or you can join my course and coaching program waitlist when it opens shortly. Join the waitlist at the link above.